Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 14-day photo artist journey. Today, we're coming to you actually via a recorded video. We had to go out of town. We lost a family member, and so we're traveling to a funeral this weekend. But we are here anyway. We did a pre-recording, and I am very, very excited to be here today. This lovely young lady sitting with me is not quite our mystery guest, huh? Because it says Sakara Birdsong there. I was gonna wait and be like, and so this is Sakara Birdsong, but it already says that there. So anywho, we'll get to Sakara in a second, honey. We'll get to you in a second. So I want to thank you for being here again today. I want to remind you guys that if you go to thephotoartistjourney.com and register, ProPrints is giving a 20 by 30 canvas wrap print to everyone who registers for the 14-day photo artist journey. Let's see my notes, because we know I can't memorize anything. And even though this is recorded, you guys are going to want to leave comments in this recording and questions, because we're going to be streaming it. And someone who is active during this call today is going to be winning a 32 by 48 canvas wrap print from ProPrints. Also, we have our 10% coupon from Backdrops by Jeremy Ellsworth. It will go out and email the code. Stella Pro kits are on sale right now, so go check them out. Literally, I saw one and 5 minutes later, I bought it. They're dope. Still learning how to use it. I'm sucking at it, but it's okay. The Art of Emotion stripped down. We're giving everyone $800 off, and we'll be sending you that code as well. And then AIBP is doing 10% off for everyone who is participating in the journey. Homespun Heart is doing 10% off with the code JOURNEY. And then Tailored Body Jewelry is also giving you all a discount code for participating. And then I want to thank our amazing speakers who have been with us through this. We have Jacqueline Tobin, Lacey Morgan, Kiate, Sean Black, Aaron Blackwell, Maria Arnett. Oh yeah, I love you, Maria. Sorry, girl. Okay. Betsy McHugh Gibson, Sakara Raven Birdsong, Elena Marr, Leon Johnson, and Aphrodite Maid. And so just to recap the 14-day artist journey really quick, we're working through 4 phases together. And you need to go download that journal if you haven't and start working through it. Phase number 1 is self-awareness. And that's where we kind of take stock of all the stuff maybe we don't want to, and all the stuff that's good. So we take a look at the places where we're brilliant and we do well, and we commend ourselves for that, and we're kind to ourselves about it. And then we take a look at the things that we struggle with, whether it be, in my case, lighting. I keep saying that. Lighting. That's my biggest issue. Or, hey, shooting film. I kind of suck at that too. I'm not real good at it. I need to get better at it. So we take stock of those things, but we do it with kindness. So we figure out where our obstacles are, whether they are perceived or whether they are real. And then we figure out how to get around them. Well, we start to figure out how to get around them. Phase 2 is learning about vulnerability and leaning into it. And in this phase, we're going to be really kind to ourselves, and we're going to make an agreement with ourselves to be vulnerable, because nothing changes on the outside unless we start changing on the inside. So if you want to grow as an artist, if you want to develop your skills further, if you want to be more rooted in confidence, then we kind of have to start working through these processes. And then phase 3 is building some fortitude by being brave. And Sakara and I have talked about this. We talked about this when she was younger. When I was younger, I always thought that being brave meant you go out into the world and you do things that are absolutely amazing. I don't know, Jean-Luc Godard went out and did big, bright, bold, beautiful, things that weren't happening during his time, and how brave he was to do that. Or Monet going and painting, as an impressionist, when at the time impressionism wasn't in fashion. Or I don't know, the Ramones playing punk rock music when, disco was going on. And I used to think those people were so incredibly brave because they went out and they did these things and they were so unafraid. But the truth is, they were afraid and they were outside of their comfort zones. And what made them brave and what made them bright and what made them bold and beautiful and made them stand out and be different is that they were willing to go out and do the things that they were afraid of, and things that made them uncomfortable, and things that were outside of their comfort zone. because those are the places where we learn and grow. And those are the places where we get to differentiate ourselves. And that's what this entire journey is about. So what I've been doing this whole time, as you guys know, is I'm bringing on artists who I admire and respect, who I think are brilliant, who have done amazing things. And I'm not asking them questions about how awesome they are. I'm asking them questions about where they sucked. I'm asking them questions about where they fell down and skinned their knees, or where they had epic failures, or where they wanted to quit. And what came from that? What did they learn from that? And how it helped them pivot as artists, because I want to humanize this journey for everyone. I think we all, especially in today's age, sorry, not comfortable moving, in today's age with social media and everything, which Sakara knows I absolutely loathe. Everybody is so perfectly freaking curated. Everything is just perfect, and everybody looks like they don't struggle, and everything looks like the grass is so much greener over there. And it's not true. We're not seeing all of the behind the scenes stuff, all of the parts of the journey that it took the people that you admire and respect to get to the places where they are. So in an effort to like humanize this process and make it a little less scary and build a community where we can all do that together, we have the 14-day artist journey. And today I am tickled pink. I think, I mean, I can say this is going to be my favorite guest. Sorry to everybody else, but it's my daughter. I don't know what you guys expect. I mean, dude, it's my kid. So today we have on my amazingly talented, very inspiring, very beautiful, very awesome child, Sakara Raven Birdsong, who is an incredible artist that I am very, very proud of, who has had her share of skinned knees. I've helped clean them up, and who has had her share of epic fails. I've watched her go through them, and who has also had amazing wins and has created a very authentic and unique voice that is hers. If you've been following me for any time, or if you're one of my students, you've heard me talk about Sakara. And when I talk about her, I always say, like, I'm a little envious of her because she reminds me of Picasso. She doesn't really take commissions very often, unless it's something she has full control of. This child will not shoot anything that is not cohesive with her vision, her style, things that are true to her. And there's a lot of beauty in that to me, because obviously I work with clients and I take a lot of commissions, and I'm not always shooting like authentically for myself. Whereas Sakara, even when she is commissioned to shoot for magazines, when she's commissioned to shoot bands, when she's commissioned to shoot for clothing lines, she's still always in control, and it's very authentic. But she also makes the time to just create art. So with all of that, welcome, Sakara. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Fun fact, I actually share a birthday with Picasso. So did you not know that?
No,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I share a birthday with Picasso.
Well, that makes that even more ironic, because I constantly compare you to him, and how, like, do you know that the only commission that Picasso ever took was when he painted that mural? I forget the name of the mural. It's one of his most famous works that he did in Spain for the Communist Party. So that is the only commission that Picasso ever took. It ended up being his most famous piece, and it was like the bane of his existence. He was so pissed that he did it, and it became so incredibly famous, but he was kind of like pressured into doing it by the Communist Party, which he was a part of back then.
Yeah.
And he hated that he took that commission, and he did not take any other commissions the entirety of his career.
That is an interesting fact. I actually didn't know that. I will definitely be reading up on that later. I just love him. He's sassy and kind of a butthead, you know.
Yeah, a little brutal.
So his work is also, yeah.
but beautiful work. And
Sakara, absolutely.
How big was that painting we had in the house? Like a 70 by something of Jacqueline.
Yeah.
By Picasso. It was beautiful. So she grew up with me talking about art and me dragging her to museums and all of this kind of stuff her whole life. Poor
And all
kids.
the art books on the shelf.
Yes, all the art books all over the place. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself as an artist, Sakara? Tell us like what mediums you work in, and where we can find you if we want to check out your work. Y'all need to go check out her work.
So I am a film photographer for the most part. I do a little bit of digital shooting, just mostly for like work and commissions and whatnot. Yeah, if you wanted to find me, you can find me on Instagram, just Sakara Birdsong, or my website. I don't really update my Instagram. Social media is also the bane of my existence. So for the most part, I don't update it that often. But yeah, still follow me. I post pictures of my dogs and cats for the most part, or some ridiculous music, fun stuff. Take it lighthearted. But yeah, so film. I guess if you wanted to get a little bit more into it, I specifically shoot Polaroid. I do have plenty of roll film cameras, but over the past, I want to say 6 to 7 years, I've predominantly been shooting Polaroid.
Okay. So when did you, well, actually, let me take a step back. So her website is Sakara, and that's Sakara, and then Birdsong. You can see her name down at the bottom. So you can find, and then the same thing with Instagram. And yeah, you do need to update with your work more often because you create so much beautiful work. A lot of my branding sessions are actually done by Sakara, because she's one of the only people I trust to actually, that I'm comfortable enough and I trust her work so implicitly to work with. So yes, you should go and check out her stuff.
Yes,
So
check out the website, especially if you want to see the last branding session with Mom.
Oh goodness, yes. That was a lot of fun. So when did you decide that you wanted to be an artist? Or what kind of like pushed you in that direction? And then more specifically, how did you get interested in photography?
I guess we'll start with how I got interested in photography. I just remember as a kid, there was always disposable cameras around, either at my grandma Carla's house or my grandma Gloria's house, and somebody was always putting a camera in my hand. I think it was maybe middle school when I asked for, like, end of middle school when I asked for a roll camera, or a roll film camera, because I was being a moody early teenager, and we would go to the cemetery pretty frequently, the one up in Piedmont, and so who doesn't want to take pictures of gravestones and whatnot? And with the years of having access to just art books, art history books, going to museums, well, the thought I could give it a go. I used to have that stack of National Geographic in my room, and I remember when I was 12, I'd be like, yeah, someday I'm gonna get in the National Geographic. I can do it. So yeah, and then
I just get like a mommy award for taking you to the cemetery all the time so that you can so that you can be all shoot the angels in the crypts and all of that.
Gosh, yeah.
Guys, I went to the cemetery with this kid so she could shoot her dark, moody black and white film in there. But we had so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, those were fun days. We remember we'd always stop by the comic book shop on the way up to the cemetery. Although Piedmont was definitely a lot different back then than it is now. But yeah, what has led me to consider myself an artist or become an artist? I don't know. I think that title to me is slightly subjective. I like to think of it as I'm doing, I guess that is technically considered an artist, but just doing things that make me happy, or that I feel like I can breathe a bit of like meaning into. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever, or when, or if I've ever considered myself an artist, but yeah, that's, I guess, I don't know. I have a hard time with that one, I think. Because what is an artist?
That's really common. So Sakara is a photographer, but not inside of this portrait photographer genre that we all live in and that all the viewers who are watching us right now live in. She lives outside of that world, very much in the art world. And it's funny that even Sakara, who is an incredibly accomplished artist, is a little bit uncomfortable with that title. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. You brought up something I think that's a really good point. Art is very subjective. I mean, we could sit here and have a debate about what is art for the rest of our lives, and we would never come to a conclusion because it is absolutely subjective, right? We can say that there is art in speaking, there is art in coding, there's an art in caring for feral cats. You know that very well. I mean, there's an art in so many things. So it becomes very subjective, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, art is the creation from it's the creation, right? That's what art is, creating something yourself, right? And sometimes it's collaboratively with a client, and sometimes it's just personal projects. And so everybody seems to be uncomfortable with the title artist. And I think that has something to do with what we call imposter syndrome, where people feel like they're not good enough to be called an artist. And sometimes it's legitimately because people do not feel like they're creating work that is artistic, because there's something missing from their work and they sense that intuitively. It's kind of like an intuition thing where their subconscious knows, but it hasn't quite come to the forefront of their consciousness. So that bridge or intuition kind of knows, like, not doing everything I could be doing. I'm not bringing all of my game to this. Like, I don't really feel like an artist. I think with you, I think it's the subjectiveness of it. And we know, like we both know, photography is kind of the redheaded stepchild in the art world, in the visual arts. It kind of came in and totally shook up the art world in its inception. And then the Dadaists got their hands on it, and Man Ray went buck wild and did all kinds of beautiful stuff with it. And did you know that he is actually like the creator of modern day fashion photography?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and I know you love Man Ray, and I know that you love the Dada movement, but he's actually like that was like the inception of fashion photography, was Man Ray. Through the Dada movement, which is wild, right? That it came from there, but
that genuinely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
honestly, especially for like a handful of, like, I guess my generation's artists and things like that. You can look at things that people are creating in the fashion world, for the few magazines that still send things to print. So yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And did you also, sorry, another fun fact I'm going to throw at you because I know how much you love Lillian. Lillian Bassman was going to school to be a graphic designer when the editor of Harper's Bazaar actually talked her into coming to work at the magazine as an editor. And then she got her hands on, was it Newton? I think it was Newton. Avedon went to Europe, and he gave Lillian the keys to his darkroom and his studio, and that's where she was born. That's where it all came from, was from Avedon's studio. But before that, she was illustrating for fashion magazines because photography wasn't being used for it yet. So she was around in the era where Man Ray was shooting and Avedon started coming in, and then she was kind of like old school with the illustrations, and then she got a camera and all this stuff. Sakara actually introduced me to Lillian Bassman when she was younger. Oddly enough, Sakara fell in love with Lillian Bassman's work, and if you haven't checked her out, you definitely should. So we're both huge fans of her work. She has a very unique voice, again, very much like Sakara, very, very clear style and unique voice. You always know a Lillian Bassman image when you No,
You can't mistake it.
no. Same with Ellen von Unworth, Lillian Bassman. There's just no mistake. You see what I did to my wall behind me? Look at that. I had a limited edition Ellen von magazine that is no longer in print, and I ripped it up and I put it up on the wall.
I remember when you did that.
Your brother was just like, "What are you doing? Should you be doing?" I would rather have it up on the wall where I could see it than sitting in a magazine. So yeah. So anyways, boy, I went on a tangent. I kind of lost where we're. Oh, the moniker of being an artist. Well, child, I deem you an artist. So whether you're comfortable with it or not, your work is incredible. And I don't think you're just a film photographer. In my opinion, I mean, you've done so much more than that. You're very much an experimental film photographer. Can we talk a little bit about some of the experimental projects that you've done?
Yeah. That's a great question. Let me try and think of all of them. So I guess the most recent would be my last project, Otherness in Nature, which was essentially born from another project that I was about to start right before the pandemic hit, actually. The initial project was going to be called Midnight Radio, and it was just going to be like different concept shoots throughout the city, but the goal was to do film soups with them and just kind of go at it and just do a bunch of weird things to destroy the film in one way or the other. But once the pandemic hit, stuck at home, nobody was in labs and developing film. So, you know, with a fridge filled with film, or with Polaroid at least, I just started walking around the neighborhood with the dog, taking photos, coming home, cutting up Polaroids, and using what I had under my sink to create chemical reactions. And from there, I have a friend, Julian, who, you know, we were going to work together on digital effects on the film with Midnight Radio. And so as I was sending him these Polaroids, he brought up the idea of a time capture. And so essentially he wrote a program that ran on my Epson film flatbed scanner. And that essentially created a time lapse of point A to point B of the film, from the initial photograph to its complete destruction. And I was photographing things every couple of days, and then the scanner would run for about 14 hours, and it was scanning once every 3 minutes. And then we compiled that into a video. So I mean, the end images are gorgeous, and pretty much any frame in between is interesting because no one is the same. And then I did a workshop on chemical reactions and Polaroid transfers with SF camera work in 2020, in the peak of the pandemic. It was fun though.
Yeah. So you also created a film out of that project that has an original score. And where can people find that?
You can find it on YouTube, or actually you can still find it on my website at sakarabirdsong.com under personal projects. It'll be the top one, Otherness in Nature, because it was the most recent one. And there are 2 different videos. There is one that is just full frame of all of the shots, and me and my friend Julian compiled it beautifully. I highly suggest, if you have a large screen or a projector, just cozy up on the couch, turn off the lights, and let this thing go. It's about 10 minutes. And my really good friend Miriam and her husband Bo created an original score for that one, and it will definitely transport you to what feels like a different world. And then the second one is essentially like the same videos, but I attempted more of like a Warhol's like Chelsea Girls, where it's two roles going at the same time. That one's definitely a little bit more chaotic. The music is also an original by a friend, Rex, and he's in a band called Bella Vista. It's amazing. Definitely more rock and roll, but either video is super worth watching on a large screen.
It's amazing how both of them, even though we have the imagery, the way that you decided to present them to the viewer changes the way that it feels. I've watched both, and obviously a lot of times it definitely changes like the way that it feels. But that was a really interesting project to come up with. So right now, during this 14-day photo artist journey, we're trying to push people to do things that are different outside of their comfort zone, ways that they can grow. And oftentimes that's really uncomfortable for people, right? Doing things that you don't know what's going to happen, or you might mess it up and it's not going to turn out well. And that can be kind of hard on the ego, right? It can be a little touchy if you're all like, oh, maybe I'm not an artist, and you go do that. But I think that's part of the creation process, is just trying, like you said, the weird shit and seeing what happens. So during that project, did you have anything where things just fell apart?
And multiple times.
Multiple times?
Oh yeah. That was 100% trial and error. It took, I mean, the photographing and scanning portion of the project, I mean, in total, the whole project took about a year. And photographing and attempting different chemical combinations took at least 5 months. And you know, with chemicals, you have to be really particular on what you can mix together. You don't want to create chlorine gas in your house, you know. So doing research on, you know, what is possible to combine, and then keeping pretty meticulous records. I have plenty of Polaroids that essentially melted between two pieces of glass, and that can, you know, you can get the most amazing shot and it just melts. And so you have to deal with that. Try capturing it again, and then figuring out either what went wrong in the solution, or just essentially attempting a completely different solution.
So would you say,
there were also, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, love. Would you say that project was, as much as it was creation, it was also a practice in failure tolerance and like growth mindset? Like every time you did something, you had to be prepared for it to fail and be okay with that, and know that you were going to learn and grow from it?
Absolutely. I think after the first couple of times, you know, obviously you want to stop, and you're like, okay, this obviously isn't working. I'm doing something wrong. And like, I was not happy with the first few that I did, you know, for one reason or another, I was just like, maybe this isn't something worth doing. And, you know, I sat with that for a few days, definitely talked to my friend who, you know, I was collaborating on this project with. And eventually I came to my senses, because I hit a gold winner, and I was like, okay, I might be onto something. So I need to stick with this. I need to be patient, you know, because in between, or at least to see the completion of one image, like you see it as you put it on the scanner, and you see it when it comes off. But that in between process of capturing, you know, the 14-hour time lapse, that's what was definitely helped teach me patience.
Yeah. I think it also gave you a lot of fortitude to know that it's okay to fail, and that in your failures, it's where you really learned. I think you grew a lot while you were doing that project.
Yeah, you know, I had to sit with this thing for a whole year. I feel a lot of my projects end up taking me time, because there are setbacks, you know, parts of it do not work, or they fall through. Like, there's a lot to work on, you know, each project that I've ever done. Like, I don't know, I'm pretty meticulous, and I definitely mess up a lot. It's not perfect from photograph to completion. So
Nothing is.
no,
That's what this
I
is.
wish. Wouldn't that be nice?
I don't know, because then we wouldn't be growing, right? We wouldn't be,
True. Yeah.
and we wouldn't be building that fortitude to like keep doing those things. So is there a time that you can think of, it doesn't matter if it was in, you know, creation of art, where you had like a disappointment and you were like, just, I quit, forget it, or a massive failure where you were like, this is just tragic, but then something really good came from it that you learned from? I know I can think of a couple of things, but I want to see what you come up with.
That's kind of a hard one. I think maybe with Fever Dreams towards the end of it, it I don't know if it was maybe
Hold
not
on 1 second before you go any further. Why don't you explain what Fever Dreams is?
Okay. Fever Dreams is a combination. It's a zine essentially where I photographed reoccurring dreams that I've had throughout my life. And not only did I photograph it, but I searched out and asked for writers that either I really respected or were my friends to collaborate with me. Essentially, I would give them the images and then a prompt for what these images, like their baseline meaning, like what was behind them, why were they the way they are. And this is it. Yeah, the first and only so far. Working on a few others, but yeah, essentially it was my first attempt at, creating something of this scale on my own. I mean, I had my friends obviously helping me, and the people who I had found to be writers were really supportive and very much into the concept. I think, there were always bumps in the road in putting something like this together.
Beautiful.
And yeah, this one might be my favorite from the whole series. Fun fact, my best friend Wesley is hiding behind the mirror holding it up. breaking the fourth wall for you. I think it was mostly learning how to kind of control how I react to situations that aren't in my control, because as my mother has said, I don't typically take on commissions. And in opening myself up to not only working with people in these shoots but writers, I let go of a lot of that control, and that was scary, that was intimidating. I am not used to that. And it was a pretty big lesson on, what a beautiful thing a collaboration can really be, what different doors it's going to open for you, the people that you end up meeting through it, and essentially, every marker of learning throughout the whole process. I barely made the deadline getting it in, because I've never put anything like this together, and so I designed the entire book by myself. It's pretty simple, but to just teach yourself Premiere on the fly. So yeah, there were a few hiccups in this book, and I think they taught me patience. They taught me to be more understanding, and that it's okay to let go of control in a project here and there, when you feel comfortable. And that's, the ultimate goal of the project is to open yourself to that and to share in, your experiences. So
Was there ever a time when you were working on Fever Dreams where you were like, forget it, I'm done? Like
all the time.
all the time.
All the time, the entirety of the project, I think, again, like this was not just, difficult in terms of like not having control on all aspects of the project, but just the vulnerability of, the every subject. And I was very critical of myself. So, for example, I would shoot one of the sessions, or one of the chapters in Fever Dreams, and I used to scan everything the moment I got home, and so I'd scan them, and then I'd just be sitting there just staring at each one, being like, well, does this necessarily convey the emotion that I'm going for, or even without the words that will eventually be a companion to these photo series, do the images themselves tell that story? And bless my best friend Hala for sitting with me through every single shoot, because I just feel like I hate this. I absolutely hate this. I can't stand to look at it. And I would try to get her to agree with me and be like, oh yeah, you could do better, because I was just very critical of myself and the subject matter. But she did not. I've received plenty of smacks over the head from her, telling me that it was perfect, or not perfect, but it was good, that I shouldn't be so hard on myself.
And do you think through that process you learned how to give yourself a little bit more grace with your creation?
Yeah. I am still pretty humble about like a lot of the things that I do, and I just, if you know me, I don't really like to talk about it. I'm very simple, and it's hard for me to talk about it sometimes, because when I create something, it's like removing a part of myself to live on its own in the world, and sometimes it's hard to like readdress it after I've let go of it.
You were looking for like, a definition of art or artist. I think you just kind of like summed it up right there unintentionally in that comment.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, oops. You're most definitely an artist. But I mean, since Fever Dreams, I watched your confidence soar after that was done. I watched you go on to do, beautiful projects that were commissioned projects, that were collaborative projects, which were not things that you had done, very often prior to working on Fever Dreams. The work that you've done with Miriam has been in my opinion, some of the most beautiful work that you've created. Like, it's been amazing. And I don't know that you would have taken on commissions like that or done things like that had you not worked through learning how to kind of let go of some things and create of yourself, like you said, and let go of something and let it go live in the world on its own, collaboratively with subjects. Because in working with your friend Miriam, who is an accomplished musician, and you've done spreads for magazines of her and her husband. They're in a band together. The band's name?
Hers is Space Moth, which she just came out with a new album. And
can you say it again? You broke up when you said it.
It's her artist name is Space Moth.
Space Moth.
Yes. And okay. Her husband is Boys Noise.
Boys Noise. Okay. And they're both brilliant musicians and artists. And so you've created a lot of work for them, a lot of promotional work for them, and then work for magazines of them. And I don't know, what do you think you would have been comfortable doing that in the past, Sakara, before Fever Dreams?
So the funny thing is, Miriam and I went to high school together, outside of continuing our friendship down this line. She actually commissioned me back in 2015. And that was the first time that I had properly taken on a commission. And that, it was fun. I got back into the swing. Like, I immediately, when she asked me to shoot her and Bo that first time, I immediately went back to my camera manual, and I was just like, okay, I need to dust off the camera. Because at that point, I kind of just set a lot of things aside. Early 20s and whatnot. But after working with her that first time, that kind of inspired me to really like get back into it. And then, I did a couple of things in between 2015 and 2017, but I I believe, or maybe did this come out in 2017? I can't remember. But I think, it was probably 2017, 2018 when Fever Dreams came out. And yeah, after she actually got me back into shooting. And then once I hit Fever Dreams and really let myself go way beyond my comfort zone of, at what I've created up until that point. So yeah, I think Fever Dreams ended up giving me a lot of confidence to question, what is my style? What do I like to do? What do I want to do? Do I want to try and do this full time, or am I going to keep this for myself? So yeah.
That's an interesting thing. A lot of that you just brought up, I want to just touch on that really quick. I don't know how many times I've said this to you. I don't think either one of us can count. Sometimes you have to do the things you don't want to do in order to do that you want to do. Your favorite saying, right? Every time I say that, mom. But I tell my students that as well. And I tell them, that story also. And there are a lot of photographers here right now within, the portrait genre right now. And in education, there's so much education out there where educators are like, here, buy this guide, learn these 10 poses and market your business this way. In 6 months, you'll be making 6 figures, right? Which is bullshit.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work that way.
It does not work that way.
But that's what this industry is right now. And there is so much pressure on new photographers and emerging artists who come into this industry and want to create beautiful things and maybe do want to have a business doing it, to be a 6-figure business in 6 months or a year, or like, it's just bananas. And the point that you made, like, it really gave you like the agency to take some time to think, like, do I want to do this full time, or do I want to keep this for myself? Do I want this to be like my personal work, my outlet, like my creation in this world? Or am I going to, do the hustle and like make this a business? And I don't know if you've even made that decision yet at this point, but I think it's a really important question that a lot of us need to ask ourselves. Like, it's okay to be an artist and your business not to be making 6 figures. It's okay to be an artist and have another job that allows you to do these things that you love doing so much. And our industry tells us that's not okay. The industry that I'm in right now, Sakara, is very loudly telling all of the artists who are in the industry that is not okay. They need to quit their job. They need to make 6 figures. And if they don't make 6 figures, then they're a failure. And that's one of the reasons that I started this whole 14-day artist journey, because it's so toxic. It's such a toxic message, and it's a toxic environment to be in as an artist, and it's not conducive to growth in any way, shape, or form. So I love that you understand sometimes we have to do the things we don't want to do in order to really like cherish and possess the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of you for that. I talk, you don't hear me talk because you're not in my class, so you don't hear me speak to them, but I talk about you very often, and I talk about you very highly because I have a lot of respect and admiration for your independent spirit and your artistry and for the path that you've chosen. And that I support you wholeheartedly, so long as you understand sometimes we have to do the things we don't want to do in order to do the things that
we want to do. Yeah.
As long as you understand that part, I totally support the entire endeavor. Okay, that's awesome. So in your photography, so we talked about some places that you failed, the entire Fever Dreams project. Also the entire otherness in nature. Both of those were exercises in like stepping outside of your comfort zone and just having failure after failure after failure until you got to the place where you were able to create the way that you wanted to. And you put out beautiful products, and not products, I'm sorry, you put out beautiful creations into the world with both of those things that will live on outside of you and they're beautiful. And I'm incredibly proud of you for them. Yeah, I don't know if I tell you that enough, but I
You
definitely
do, and I appreciate you.
um you also do a lot of showings, like you've done a lot of gallery showings as well. And so that's got to be like, for me, like I'm terrified of doing that. Like I am scared to death to submit my work to places. Like when I just went and did that Pro Prince Legends competition thing, I was so scared to go shoot with like against that again because it's a competition
Yeah.
against the other photographers. Like, I threw up that morning before I went out. I was like, ugh. I was so,
Yeah.
and the idea of putting my work out there for these arbitrary technical people, I think that might be it. These arbitrary technical people to judge, just I feel like awkward turtle. I kind of like pull back and I'm just like, oof, I don't want to do this. Right. So I've never
Yeah.
submitted for a gallery. I've never even submitted for publication, for God's sakes. The only time I've been published is when people have reached out to me or people have asked me to shoot for publications, but I've never submitted. And I know that that's something you do regularly and you get rejected a lot.
Yeah. I
But you
just
keep
got a
doing
rejection the other day.
but
Literally just got an email rejection 2 days ago.
but you keep doing it, and you have like you've been in multiple gallery showings, and you've been in multiple publications online and in print. So if someone wants to do that, like what would, if you were giving me advice, like, okay, mom, well, actually probably don't give them the advice you give me, because that's gonna be real sassy. So if you were
Oh
to,
no,
so
not too sassy.
okay, well then
Not too
fine.
sassy.
If you were to give me advice to get over this fear I have of being rejected or not good enough, or having these arbitrary technical, and my, because I think of them as technical people, looking at my work and dissecting it technically and being like, they're not going to get it, like, because I'm not shooting that way, I'm shooting for emotion, right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give the people who are watching us today on how to like overcome, or me, how do I overcome that? How do I get past that fear of not being good enough?
Well, and maybe this is because I just have this kind of attitude, but it doesn't matter. Why not? Like, what are you going to miss out on, outside of possibly getting your work out there to be seen by people? Like, I get that, sometimes at gallery showings, I'll see somebody intently staring at my work and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to walk away from this. But it's the why not aspect. If you're creating art or something that just means something to you, maybe it'll mean something to somebody else. Maybe it'll make somebody stop and think and apply, your work to something in their life. What you should be scared of is the application process. That's the only thing that's scary. Artist statements are my biggest enemy. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's important, that's something again that I kind of struggle with. Like, is it for me or is this, for somebody else? And it's a bit of both when it comes to gallery shows or even publications. For example, I with Otherness in Nature, I made it mostly for me, but then I published it and it got a pretty good, reaction. A lot of people really enjoyed it. And I, this was also at the height of the pandemic, so I wasn't sure when or if I'd be able to get into a gallery. And another friend of mine who's a very big supporter of everything that I do, and always has, she's my personal cheerleader, lover. She sent me a website that had like just lists of, who was looking for applications, either for in print or online publications, or even residencies. So I just started digging through that and I found a magazine that I thought, why not? They're a little bit more like of a larger magazine print. I think it was maybe 10 by 17. I forget exactly the dimensions, but larger magazine. And I was just like, okay. I submitted. I didn't think I was going to get it. I like to be cautiously optimistic. And yeah, I don't know. When I got it, it just felt really good. And there are plenty of those instances where you're going to get letters of, oh, we're sorry, your work was beautiful, but it doesn't fit with, this open call or this this publication, and that's okay too. That's not necessarily a reflection of your work. That's just, it's kind of the luck of the draw. Sometimes you're submitting to something that hundreds, if not thousands, of people are submitting to. The end goal is to just have fun with it and to tell yourself, why not?
Okay, why not? I guess I'm going to submit something for publication. I went and did that contest and I was like, well, why not?
Exactly. Oh no. She's breaking out the snaps. If you want, I'll send you that list of open calls.
Would you mind sharing that with our audience? Because I'm sure once they hear that, they're going to be like,
yeah, I will definitely have to dig through my emails or I think it might be in my saved bookmarks, but I'll find it and I'll sneak into your group and I'll just drop a link.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. So we will get that to you guys at some point. So one more thing I want to talk about with you, and then I will let you get about your evening. I know your animals are locked up in that door behind you and they're probably like, Ma, let me out.
I don't know if you've been able to hear the dog's been sniffing at the door the whole time.
Oh, Iggy. I know that you are a huge lover of the cinema and film, like massive film snob. Love you for it. Are you inspired much by cinema and cinematography in your work? Does that play a role in like what inspires you? Like, I'm kind of guessing that that's what inspires you, but I'm wondering if that's not it. What does inspire you?
That's a lot to answer. That's hard, it's, I guess, everything from everyday life to different philosophers to, directors, cinematographers, specific movies. There are a handful of photographers that are currently active that just create work that is mind-boggling. I'd have to say one of my current favorite artists is Andrei Tarkovsky, which maybe people have heard of him. He's pretty popular. I don't know if you watch any older movies, you probably know who he is. He's a Russian filmmaker and he's created some really interesting, sci-fi films. His most popular probably being Stalker and Solaris. And he was so into his craft while he was filming Stalker, which was actually his last film. The fields in which they were filming in were radioactive. Him and a handful of his crew passed like within 5 years of Stalker being done with because they had died from cancer. It's like he was dedicated to his craft. Not saying, you should go out and find yourself a radioactive bog to trounce around and
let's not do that.
No, but he was an amazing artist, and his storytelling and his visual storytelling is amazing. He also had a collection of Polaroids that are, I don't know, there's something so simplistic and beautiful about them. I think the best compliment I ever got was at an art show where somebody and I were talking about my work, and she said that a lot of my Polaroids, like my still lifes, reminded her of Tarkovsky's style, which like I'll never not love that compliment, because his work, I would definitely check it out. I believe it's called Light, Tarkovsky's Polaroids. It's a very expensive book. I do not own it, but if you have the spare change, definitely get yourself one. But he's also done a couple of other.
Light. Spell his name.
Oh goodness, I wouldn't dare
Is
to
it with a
try, but
K, like
I'll,
Tarkovsky?
I mean, I could look it up for you.
It's okay. They don't want to stretch your internet anymore. Well, I wish I would have known that. I have a surprise for you, actually. I have a surprise for you for doing this. Um, I know I told you earlier, did you notice my background? Like I tore up my Vaughn magazine, but do you notice
Yeah.
anything else different in my background?
You have that amazing little 4x6 that I got you for Christmas.
Yes, I do. I do. Okay, sorry. We're just gonna have that. It wasn't for Christmas, it was for Mother's Day, babe.
Oh, I always get this wrong. Sorry.
It's okay. So Sakara asked me what I wanted for Mother's Day, and I was like, "Oh, I nothing. There's really nothing that I want." She was like, "Come on, what do you want, Mom?" And I was like, "Oh, no, really nothing." And she was out shopping, and she literally found this and bought it for me. It's like one of my prized possessions. This and that Lillian Bassman. Is it a stenotype? Is that what it's called?
Oh gosh. I don't remember the term for that thing, but are you talking about the thing that I made in high school?
Yeah, I
Oh
still have
God.
that on my desk. It's like one of my, those are two of my most cherished possessions.
That's slightly embarrassing.
No, it's wonderful. I'm gonna have to find it. But do you notice anything else? So take a look at my background. We're playing like this is a little Easter egg hunt right now.
Pardon me, guys. You're gonna get glare.
Might be a little bit hidden.
So plant on your desk.
Let
There's
me
some
help
books.
you. So I
can't.
picked this up for you. So next time you're over, I got you Warhol's
Oh
Polaroids.
wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
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 Thank you.
If I would have known about Tarkovsky's
Oh, it's okay. That's like a $500 book.
oh yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that for just nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe Christmas or something like that. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
been sitting here through the artist journey, waiting for my interview with you so I could surprise you and let you know that I got you that book and it's here waiting for you.
I am excited.
Yeah,
So,
it's got a lot of good stuff in it. I want one for myself now too. It's super awesome.
Nice. Thank
And
you.
you're welcome. This is something that Sakara and I have done for and with each other her whole life. Like I have spent my life sharing my love of art with her, through taking her to museums, through taking her to films. One weekend, Sakara was on restriction. I don't remember what she did, but she was on restriction for the weekend, and she wasn't able to watch TV or play video games. And she was incredibly bored. And she came and was like, "Please, can I just watch TV?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I got your punishment. You can watch TV, but the only thing we're going to watch are musicals." And she was just like, "Oh, I hate you." However, I got the child to watch An American in Paris. And by the time the film was over, she was like, "Gene Kelly is hot. And can we take tap dancing lessons?"
Do you want to talk about how after the films you proceeded to bust out your tap dancing in the living room?
Make me pull out my, hold on, don't make me pull out my tap shoes. They're right.
Oh.
They're, they're legit. They're right here. They're right.
Oh God. Maybe that's what I'll get you for Mother's Day. I'll get you like a little like linoleum floor that you can move like in and out of your desk area and just like
or maybe you could take a tap dancing. Maybe you could take a tap dancing class with me. Kind of like the ballet class that we took together when you were little.
Let's not.
But I think part of being an artist, especially in this medium, is being inspired by all of the different arts, because I think a lot of people who get into photography, they're so cameras are like so readily available to us everywhere all the time nowadays. So it doesn't take much to become a photographer. You just pick up some gear. It's on our phones. It's so accessible. So there's not a lot of training in the arts. oftentimes for people. And generally people who want to be photographers or creatives, they have a creative nature, but they haven't had a lot of the background in art. And so watching films, listening to music, reading philosophy, reading books, all of these things, they're so integral, and they're such a great way to gain additional inspiration as an artist and really kind of flex those artistic muscles by drawing inspiration from other things. So okay, well, with that, we're not here live, so you guys are seeing this recorded. So I cannot announce who the winner is today of the 32. Can you imagine? It's Sakara, a 32 by 48 canvas wrap print someone gets today for like sitting around listening to us gab. That's awesome, right? So
yeah, that
congratulations to you, winner. I don't know who you are. Yeah, congratulations. All the way around. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Again,
thanks for having me.
Of course. Do you mean here today, or like, all those years ago?
Why not both? Why not both?
Okay. You're very welcome. Thank you for being mine. I love you dearly. Anyone who wants to find Sakara's work, you can find her at sakarabirdsong.com. When did you take the Raven part out? Like, for so long you were going by Sakara Raven Birdsong. When did that change?
That just seems like a really long URL. And in the day and age that we live in, I mean, somebody's going to find out my full name, but I realized I was putting my full government name. Sorry. I realized I was putting my full government name out there. And like, obviously it's a really cool name. But yeah, not the best idea. So yeah, I mean, most things it is, just not for my website or my Instagram. Right. It's Sakara R Birdsong. The Raven is special now.
Okay. She hated it when she was a kid. She was like, what kind of crazy hippie were you to name me this? Now she loves it. Glad you like it now. Glad I gave it to you.
Thank you for the present.
Yeah. So you guys can find her at Sakara Birdsong. And if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll come back and we'll look at that later. So we'll go back into the Facebook group, both of us, and we'll look at the questions that you have, and we'll be happy to answer them. I love you dearly, my child. And I will see you soon. So see you shortly. Thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation with us. And again, you're very inspiring to me. I think that you are a brilliant artist, and it makes my heart very happy. That statement that you made probably made me happier than just about anything you could have said. That when you create of yourself and, let it go live out in the world, like, that's life. That's the beauty of art. People are going to be like, what are they doing? It's what the beatniks used to do, you guys. Instead of clapping, they used to snap fingers. And Sakara always teases me when I get a little too artsy, and she does this at me. So it's kind of a little jab, a fun one though.
Fun jab. She does it to me too.
If we're being too cool, it's the fingers.
Yeah. If somebody dresses too cool or says something a little too cool,
yeah, we call out the pretentiousness.
Oh God, where's my beret?
The beauty of the pretentiousness. So, but anyways, that was a definite moment for me. That was amazing. And I'm very proud of you. And you all should go check out our work. It's absolutely beautiful. You keep creating. That's what you're here for. You have a beautiful heart and a beautiful soul, and your creations are beautiful. So you stick with it. I know you will. You have a very good failure tolerance and a growth mindset, and that's what we need to be artists. So keep doing the do and doing the good work.
Will do. Thank you again so much for having me. For both ways.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon. Bye. Love you, Socks.
Love you too.